All right, folks, we are going to review for Module 2.1 and 2.2 quiz. On this quiz, we're going to see terms and coefficients, and we're going to have to be able to write equations and expressions from like words and try to make sure we kind of translate it from words to like numbers. But let's get started with identifying terms and coefficients. So let me zoom in here so we can look at A. A, identify the terms coefficients for negative 10 plus 9p minus 6z. Now, most people, when I ask them, can identify the fact that this has three terms. If you know there are three terms, then you should be able to write out what each term is. Negative 10 is a term. All right, 9p is a term. And we have to be careful because this is negative 6z is a term. A lot of times people will just put 6z and then they're wrong because the minus sign is a part of that term, and that minus sign means that it's negative. Obviously, the positive here, the plus sign, is a part of 9p, but it's just indicating it's a positive 9p. So I don't have to write plus 9p because I know just by writing 9 that it's positive. But I can't say that's negative unless I write the negative there. So anytime you see a minus sign, keep up with the fact that that is a negative term. So there are three terms. Those are the three terms. Now, coefficients is what usually confuses people. Okay, so coefficients, here's a kind of a quick definition. Coefficients are the numbers that are associated with a variable. So for example, negative 10 is not a coefficient because negative 10 has no variable. So it's not a coefficient. However, 9 is a coefficient because 9 is a number that is associated with p. It's not 9p. You don't write 9p because that's the whole term. A coefficient is just that number that's a part of that term. It's not the variable. It's basically the variable terms, but without the variable. Okay, so it's just the number that's associated with a variable. So with the z is negative 6. Negative 6 is the number that is associated to z. So negative 6 is a coefficient. I'm sorry, again, if you hear the lawnmower outside. That's just the way things work. If you can hear it, I don't know. If not, that's fine. So there's your answer for A. I'll do like B, and maybe I'll do B and I'll go down and skip a few of these because they're all basically the same thing. I don't need to do the whole. If you can understand the first one, you can understand pretty much all of them. But we'll do one more just for practice. So B has, again, three terms. You have 7x, it's a positive. You have negative 80y. And you have negative 20 as your three terms. Again, since those are minus signs, those minus signs associate with those terms as negatives. But now our coefficients. Coefficients, again, are the numbers that associate with a variable. So 7 is associated with x. 7 is a coefficient. Okay, again, it's not 7x. It's not the whole term. It's just that number, right? Negative 80 is a number associated with y. Negative 80 is a coefficient. And again, it's not negative 80y, just negative 80. It's just the numbers, okay? But it's the numbers that are tied to a letter. Negative 20 is not a coefficient because negative 20 has no variable, okay? So it's just the 7 because it's tied to x, and negative 80 because it's tied to y. Okay, negative 20 is not tied to anything. So I'll skip these. I'm going to go to F because I know people are going to have a question with F. So F, very interesting. We have four terms. Most people can identify. We have negative x is a term, 4y is a term, negative 9z is a term, and 5 is a term. So we have four terms. That's simple enough to list out, but the coefficients is very important. Now, most people are going to notice 4 right away. 4 is a coefficient because it's associated to y, and people are going to notice negative 9 because negative 9 is associated to z. But what is associated to x? We have three variables, x, y, and z, so I should have three coefficients. So what's the coefficient that goes with x? That's very curious, right? You can't say negative x because, again, you're not supposed to write the letter down. You're only supposed to write numbers here, okay? So the question is, what number is there in front of x? It's hiding, it's invisible, but it's there. In this case, it's negative 1 because it's negative 1x. This is the same thing as negative x, negative 1x, but you don't always see that 1. That's just chilling there. It's kind of an invisible thing, but it's there. So that coefficient for x is actually negative 1. And just FYI, if it ever is a positive x, if it's just like x plus 4y, etc., if it's just a positive x, its coefficient is just plain old positive 1. So there's still a coefficient even if you don't see it. If you don't see it, it just means it's 1. So if you don't see it, it's 1. If it's negative and you don't see it, then it's negative 1. Okay, but it's still 1. So just be aware of that. Okay, now let's move over to some of these. So write the equation for each expression. So sum of 18 and a number x is equal to 21. So sum, it's very important we understand what that means. Sum is the word for the result of an addition problem. So the word sum is telling me that I am adding here. So the sum or the addition of 18 and the number x, so 18 and x, is equal to 21. So since it's sum, it means we're adding 18 and x. So 18 plus x is equal to 21. That's the equation. That's what we're writing. So that's the answer for A. B, a number x, so x is increased by 19. Or a number x increased by 19 is 102. So if you increase something by 19, what are you doing? Are you adding? Are you subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? And I always put it this way. If you have $10 and then you increase your total by $19, if you increase it by $19, what are you doing? What you're doing is you're adding $19 to your $10, right? You're adding those values together. So increased by is another addition. Q. So it's saying that we're adding a number x, we're adding 19 to it, and that is 102. The word is going to be very important. Anytime you see the word is, it's going to mean equals. So is equal 102. So C, difference. Now, difference again, is it multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting? So difference, let's put it this way. What's the difference between having $10 and having $8? Well, the difference is $2 because if one person has 10 and the other person has 8, the difference there is that one person has $2 more than the other. So difference here is going to mean subtraction because you would take the difference between the values and that remaining amount is what you get when you subtract it. So if you did 10 minus 8, you would see that that difference is 2. The gap between 10 and 8 is 2. So difference is subtraction. So we're subtracting a number. So whenever I see the word a number, that means x. X is going to be a number, quote unquote. A number and 18 is, remember, is the same as equals 22. So we're saying subtraction between x and 18, so I have x minus 18, is equal to 22. Now, D is where things get pretty interesting. So we have kind of a double scenario going on here. We have 10 times the sum of half a number. So we're doing 10 times. Now, what are we multiplying by 10? We're multiplying 10 not by a number or a term. We're multiplying it by a sum. So what we're going to have, I'm going to put parentheses because I have to figure out what this expression is. What's the sum of half a number and 7? I'll come back to that 10 in a second, but I have to do 10 times this expression. So again, we know that sum means plus. So what are we adding? We're adding half a number and 7. So half a number is very interesting. Think about it like this. If you have 20, what's half of 20? It's 10, right? How do you get that? Well, you take 20 and you divide it by 2 because dividing it by 2 is cutting it in half, right? If it's 50 and I ask you what's half of 50, you would say 25. And because you're doing 50 divided by 2, you're cutting 50 in half. So when it says half a number, it means take your number and dividing it by 2. This is how you can write half a number. So the sum of half a number and 7 means I'm taking x over 2, half a number, and I'm adding 7. Now don't forget though, we're taking that sum, we're taking this sum as a group, and we're multiplying it times 10 because it says 10 times that sum, 10 times that group. And then it says is 11, so we know it equals 11. So that's how you should do that. Now, if you wrote this without parentheses, you're not technically correct. Because if you don't have parentheses, then you're only doing 10 times half a number. You're not doing 10 times the sum of half a number and 7. You have to do 10 times that as a group because it says that as a group. The sum of half a number and 7 is a group, and you're taking that and you're multiplying 10 to it. 2/3 a number plus 4 is 7. So 2/3 is written like this, 2 over 3. 2/3 a number means 2/3 times a number. So 2/3 times x plus 4 is 7. So that's how that should look. Kind of easy, but kind of not. Now f, 8 times the difference of a number in 2 is the same as 3 times the sum of a number in 3. So f is very similar to d in the sense that you have something multiplied to a group. So here we're doing 8 times. 8 times, but we're not multiplying it by just one thing, we're multiplying it by a group because it says the difference. We need to figure out what this difference of a number in 2. The difference of a number in 2, we already mentioned that difference means subtraction. So we're subtracting a number, x and 2, so x minus 2. This is indicating the difference of a number in 2. And remember, it's doing 8 times that difference, so it's 8 times that group. So I put it in parentheses to indicate that it's 8 times this as a group. Again, if you don't have the parentheses, then you're just saying 8 times x. You're not saying 8 times the difference of x minus 2. So be very aware of that sometimes you're multiplying an expression. Sometimes it's easier to look at this expression, write that expression down, and then remember that you're going to times it by 8, which is kind of what I do. I like to write down the expression, which in this case was x minus 2, and then multiply it by 8. Now, is the same as means equal to 3 times the sum of a number and 3. So again, we're doing 3 times, but we're not doing 3 times something by itself. We're doing 3 times another group. 3 times the sum of a number and 3. So let's focus our attention on that. We're going to do 3 times, but we have to figure out what a sum of a number and 3 is. So sum, again, means addition. So we're adding x and 3. So it's x plus 3. That's the sum of a number and 3. But don't forget, we're taking this group and timesing it by 3. So I have 3 times that group. So there is my equation. G, the sum of -7 times a number and 8 times the sum of a number and 1 is the same as the number minus 7. So the sum, remember, sum means we're adding 2 things. So what 2 things are we adding? Well, we have -7 times a number. That's a plain expression. -7 times a number is -7x. And so this is the other part. That's the first part that we're adding. And because it's sum, it's adding 8 times the sum of a number and 1. So we have to figure that one out. So again, we're doing 8 times a group because it's 8 times the sum. So it's 8 times a group, the sum of a number and 1. So the group that we're multiplying with 8 is adding a number and 1. So x plus 1. So you see how we did that? We kind of have like an inception thing going on. We have like expressions inside expressions. It's crazy. But we have all of that. -7 times a number plus 8 times the sum of a number and 1. So 8 times x plus 1 is the same as, so equal to, the number minus 7. So the number, call x minus 7. Now h, the quotient of the difference of a number in 24 divided by 8 is the same as the number divided by 6. So a quotient means we're going to have a fraction. And on top of the fraction, we're going to have the difference of a number in 24. the difference of a number and 24. So difference means subtracting. What are we subtracting? We're subtracting a number, x, and 24. So x minus 24. Divided by 8. So that's the bottom part. The top part was the difference of a number and 24, which is x minus 24. And the bottom part was 8, because it says divided by 8. Is the same as, so equal to, the number divided by 6. So the number, again, is x divided by 6 means over 6. So there's h. Okay, now to finish this, we got a few word problems. Let me zoom in. Eliza earns $400 per week plus $15 for each new customer she signs up. Let C represent the number of new customers Eliza signs up. Write an expression that shows how much she earns in a week. So she earns $400. We know that, right? But she's earning an additional plus $15 for every new customer she signs up. So I'll say 15C. That's $15 per new customer. So she gets $400 no matter what, but she gets another 15 for every customer that she signs. So there's your expression. That's it. That's all it asks for. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the rest of this just says, let C represent the number of new customers, and then write the expression. So yeah, we're done. That's it. $400 plus the 15C, the $15 per customer. So B, Max's car holds 18 gallons of gasoline. Driving on the highway, the car uses approximately 2 gallons per hour. Let H represent the number of hours that has been driving on the highway. Write the expression for how many gallons of gasoline Max has left after driving H hours. So Max's car has 18 gallons in it. We understand that it has 18 gallons in it. Now, when you're driving the car, you're losing gas, right? You're using up gas. So you're subtracting gas from your tank. Now, how much are we subtracting? We're subtracting 2 gallons every hour. So we start with 18, but then we're taking away 2 gallons every hour. So 2 times H for 2 gallons every hour, 2 per hour. And there's your expression. So now C, a man's age today is 3 years less than 4 times the age of his oldest daughter. So a man's age today, which we will call, let A represent the daughter's age. So a man's age today, we don't know what a man's age today is, but we know it's 3 years less than 4 times the age of the oldest daughter. So we're using A to represent the age of the daughter. So 4 times the age of the daughter, right? 4 times the age of the oldest daughter, that's 4 times A. But we have 3 years less than that. So take that and subtract 3. That would be 3 years less than that. So we kind of did this almost backwards because it just sort of needed to be that way. 4 times the age of the oldest daughter is very easy to come up with because it's just 4 times the age of the daughter. But when you see 3 years less than, you have to take that age and subtract 3 to have 3 years less than. So that's the expression for that man's age. That's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it helps. Please feel free to ask me questions, send me messages on Remind. If you have anything, let me know. I'll see you guys later. Good luck on the quiz. Bye.